phone is acting up a little bit, but I think everything's okay.
All right. Are we about ready?
For
the
yes.
Recording button to come on?
The recording is on.
It is on. Okay. I forgot what number this is.
This is the 25th, I believe.
Okay. Welcome to the 25th Ask the Chief Global Forum. And it's the review on They Live. So, anyway, I'm going to start with our usual exercise and the bump. So, everyone, here we go. I'm feeling like 5 of these this time. So, I'm going to do 5, starting 1. 2. 3. 4. And 5. Okay. Now for the bump. Hands approximately 12 inches apart. Pushing that energy out there. Anyone not feeling it, let me know. Okay.
I'm having a hard time, Chief.
Okay. I'm going to focus on you a bit more. You're going to close in a little bit. All right. Let me know when you feel it.
I feel it. Thank you, Chief.
Okay. Very good. And I'm bumping it up to feel that increased vibration, tingling. Anyone not feeling that bump, let me know.
Hi, Chief. It's Sayer. I'm not really feeling it.
Okay. You're going to do the same thing. Just going to close your hands in a little bit more, a little closer. All right. You know when you feel it.
I'm feeling it now.
Okay. Good. All right. Now we're going to use this to do our containment. 3. Starting now. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. And we're going to push that energy out. Clear our rooms. Clear our space. Clear the forum. 1. 2, 3. And 4. Okay, everyone. Good. So, guess we can get started with the review. I believe everyone has seen the movie. Anyone hasn't seen the movie?
They Live.
Okay. So.
Oh, Mimosa has it because it wouldn't play in her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you didn't get a chance to see it. We're going to.
No, because the link wouldn't work.
You said it was a link and the link wasn't working?
No, it was not working. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Per country.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I used to put movies in my Dropbox, but I haven't been doing it for a while. But anyway, we'll go through it, and if you still want to, well, it would be good for you to see it, even if it's after the forum. So I'll see if I can locate, a copy and then put it in the Dropbox and send you a link. Okay. So, Ms. A?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So would you like to start with questions, or would you like to start with the movie review?
Well, I'm thinking we'll just start with the movie, and then we get to certain points where you feel that the questions, go on with that particular scene. Then we can go into some of the questions around those particular scenes. But of course, I'm going to be giving, there's my Neo Shamanic impression of what's going on in the movie. And again, understand that this movie is symbolic. It's not, a blueprint like I had to tell individuals that the Matrix was not a blueprint. It's just symbolic of something that's going on. And this one's pretty interesting. It was done before the Matrix, and it was which we consider a B movie, and it's kind of a cult movie actually. A lot of folks who consider themselves to be progressive or whatever, or expansive, or trying to become enlightened, will generally point to this movie as talking about what's going on in the world, and a lot of it is symbolic of what has been going on in the world. So with that, we're going to just go ahead and start. Just
Yes, Chief. So the first quote from the movie, which I'll just go ahead and read that for you, Chief.
sure.
The whole deal is like some kind of crazy game. We put everyone at the starting line, and the name of the game is make it through life while everyone is out for themselves and trying to do you in at the same time. You do what you can, and I'll do my best to blow your ass away.
So that's one of the lines from the two main characters. The main character is Roddy Piper, who was a wrestler. I think he transitioned out a few years ago. And I forget the name of the other actor. I forgot it all of a sudden. But anyway, it starts out where it's just this, almost like the beginnings of dystopia, really. Because people are out of work, and it's, they're struggling. There's these shanty towns and so on. And he's kind of drifting from place to place, trying to find work and trying to, I guess, find somewhere where he can, plant roots. So he gets a job, and he meets the other character, main character.
I think his name is Keith David. The actor is Keith
David.
Yes, but his name is Frank in the
Yeah,
movie.
his character's name is Frank.
Yes.
And he actually, he still does a lot of work in movies, as from my last time I saw anything on film a couple years ago. The guy's still an active actor. So anyway, the scene that Ms. A mentioned was after they had done their day's work or whatever, and he takes them to this little shanty village, of homeless people, to speak because he didn't have anywhere to stay. So the conversation, kind of formulates there. And there's a number of things that have to do with social conditions and things like that. That's throughout the movie as well. And it's kind of interesting. It's very period. Do you have the year that movie was made?
Sure, Chief. Oh, and also the main character's name is George. I found it.
Oh, it's George.
Yes, 1988. This movie came out.
Yeah, so it was 1988 then. Yeah. For some reason, I almost felt like it was even older than that.
Yeah.
But I knew it was in the 80s. So, anyway, it was made in 1988. The Matrix was, I think, 1999 or something like that. So this was a precursor. So anyway, you can go to the next.
Go to the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's see. My iPad keeps moving around on this.
Yeah, well, I was doing that. Well, I don't know if I need to explain it. It's pretty simple. What they were saying, and a lot of folks agree, with it. Those who are, trying to be aware of, the social situation in the world and so on and so forth, about people being pit against one another. And I've done some true logics having to do with the whole concept of competition. So also the whole concept of competition has to do with warfare, really. So, you're born into this realm that is basically about war 24/7. So some will think, well, war has to do with tanks and guns and jets and, fighters and bombs and so on and so forth. But war is just literally has to do with competition and competing. And in the end, someone loses, someone wins, someone loses. And whoever loses, really, there's very few good sports out there. So, But anyway, do you have it?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness. They have created a repressive society, and we are their unwitting accomplices.
Now, which character was saying that?
This is a gentleman that was on the television whenever they were using some kind of signal to interrupt the broadcast from the TV station.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, do with the movie, you know, even though it talks about some pretty interesting things about what's going on, it is very much created by density. You know, so they will give you some concept of, you know, things that you're suspecting, you know, that something's controlling this realm, that's, you know, that's controlling people and so on. And so they, you know, they give you that. But they do things like the way that you battle is, you know, the system. They give you, you know, their opinion on how you should battle them, which means, you know, you'll never win. And so they have this guy who's breaking into the television signal, and he's trying to wake up the people and so on and so forth. And there's one character that comes up, you know, later in the film, those who watch it know, who's sitting there, and he's just annoyed with this guy breaking into his TV programming, which I think is watching the Shopping Channel or something. Right?
Yes,
Something
it was
like that.
fingernails.
Yeah, you know, some really, you know, like,
Fashion.
you know, yeah, nonsensical stuff that really means nothing. So he wants to be, you know, in other words, it's showing someone who wants to be asleep, who doesn't want to deal with the reality of what's going on, and they think that I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, that by accepting the system the way that it is, that they're going to be okay in the end. All they need to do is do what these particular entities want them to do, and everything will be fine. But if you really check out history, even having to do with wars that have gone on, and even with the Holocaust and so on, that there were betrayers, like the Warsaw ghetto story, betrayers amongst those who were in the ghetto, who were literally turning in individuals in the ghetto. And then once they cleared the ghetto out, they were like, okay, we did a great job for you, right? So, you know, we get our reward. We get to be free. They said, no, you get on the train too. And you go to Auschwitz as well. So this is what really goes on. But in this movie, this one character, he's, you know, into just, accommodating those who are doing the damage. So anyway, those who watch it knows that you know, they break in for a while, and then they lose their you know, their feed, because they're hacking into the feed from, I guess, one of the news channels or something like that. And anyway, from there.
The guy who said was accommodating the density.
Yeah, the guy with the beard.
His name is The Drifter, and the actor is Buck Flower. I don't know.
Okay.
That's
Well,
just
he's not well known. He's
side
yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Okay. So then it says, the next line is, their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness.
Which is pretty interesting, you know, because that literally is what it's all about, you know. Consciousness is also, you know, it's the mind as well. So I think there's another philosophy about divide and conquer, you know, compartmentalizing the mind. And once they separate the mind's ability, you know, or neutralize the mind's ability to see the whole picture, then they got you. So literally, they're talking about that, and even again, war again from this, you know, I think the Vietnam War, battle for the hearts and minds of the people. So if they can get the mind, you know, convince people to think a certain way by withholding information and so on and so forth, or fabrication, then, you know, they have you. So, okay, what's the next thing?
Sure. Okay. It says, you were talking about, Chief, how this movie had a lot of other rhetoric. We just picked the parts that you can gain neo-shamanic information from. But the other stuff was very much like misdirection, you were saying. You said they muddy the waters by giving examples of those who work for the system as if they are part of saving people from the system.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, with that, I don't know what part was it with the preacher, the street preacher,
Yes, Chief.
and that was a little further in,
Yes,
maybe into the
he,
movie. That they have a street preacher and he's talking about these aliens and who are taking over in so many words, and also the church that's across the street from from the homeless village. They're talking about these the glasses that these guys are using. That science is the key to battling what's going on. When in reality, science and religion are hand in hand with these things, what's going on. So that's where they muddy the waters. So folks are looking in and they think, oh wow, this is amazing, they're telling us what's really going on. No, they're just feeding you stuff. And also, don't be surprised if you realize that density is watching this stuff too, because they tune themselves up as well through observing. It's almost like a news channel for them as to what's going on, because they don't really communicate with each other in the way that you may think that they communicate with each other. They're connected to the same grid, but there's still this separation, just as there are, different countries on the planet that, that have different languages and supposedly don't have anything to do with one another. But in reality, even from one of the forums that I did with this guy, this financial guy, Rainer, we talked about there are no borders. So anyway, so that's one of the things that they were using to muddy the waters. So a lot of folks like to sit and talk about scientists, or or at least how they introduced it here, that the scientists discovered this recently or something like that, and that there's this problem, and we're using technology to change it or to fight against them. But then for those who like to believe in the spiritual aspect of the battle, they use the blind street preacher. So don't be fooled by this stuff. This is literally the density's attempt to muddy, and successful attempt in a lot of cases, to muddy the waters, where folks are very, very confused as to how to go about dealing
Chief,
with
question.
things in the realm. Yes, who's this?
Sire, sorry to interrupt you. I don't know if it's gonna lead away from what you're talking about, but can you kind of explain how religion and science go hand in hand?
Wow. Okay. Almost like a trick question, but not really a trick question. Everything that you've experienced in this world from the time that you were born belong to the density. So, density doesn't choose one little area to function in. They choose it all. They create it all. You think you know everything there is to know? Oh no. You only know what they want you to know. Therefore, as I said, religion, the world is religion. Hierarchical. Everything hierarchical is religion. Science is just part of the whole scam. So someone said, well, how about corporations or something? Corporations, everything is their handiwork. So just because you can't really see it in the sense with your own senses, that's because you've been locked into the system and have been basically programmed. So this is what we're trying to do. You're trying to what you're trying to do is actually break out of the program and actually see the real. And I have had some clients who are interested in, I want to see what's really going on. I really want to, to evolve, become enlightened. And then I said, well, I do know it. I know personally how it works. And so I show them, and the picture gets really, really scary to them. And they go, whoa, wait. Can you give me enlightenment light, please? The Disney version, please. Where everybody, dances around holding hands and singing Kumbaya or whatever the hell. But that's not what it is. It's a war. And the things who created this, as I've said numerous times, they don't like you. They don't give a crap about you and your hopes and your wishes and your dreams. I will be reviewing a movie called Bedazzled, and it's literally a comedy, but how they hide things in comedies and things where it's, that's light or whatever. That stuff is so true that it's not even funny. How they behave, how they are with you, promising you stuff, and then you go along doing everything that they tell you to do, and then say, ta-da! Either they say, no, now you got to do this, or you got to do that, or I'm not paying you. I'm not giving you what I promised you. Kids like certain family units that I have, of my family units, who were like on a roll all the way through school. And they were told, yes, if you do really well, you'll get a job, you'll have that great life and so on and so forth. And so they were very proud of themselves and thinking they're really, really geniuses because they're swallowing the nonsense of the system. And, even though some things are very practical, but a whole lot that they teach in school isn't. So they follow it. Those who are really not really into it get ridiculed.
Mm.
Then they get out and they walk, okay, it's all, the road is paved for me, right? They get out there, it's a freaking ghetto and a war zone. All of a sudden they say, oh, all of that, those A's, straight A's you got don't mean jack crap to us. You fell for it. The ones who did do better, talking about myself, I never got let back or anything, but I did enough to get by. But I really wasn't interested in what was going on. And not to say that, some would like to say, yeah, I wasn't interested either. Well, they just don't pay attention to anything. I paid attention to something else. I was interested in other things. I did very well in other things that had nothing to do with the system. So I do well now because that's the kind of consciousness I am. So I wasn't aware of what kind of consciousness I was at the time, but I knew I was interested in things that other people thought was weird. And then as I became an adult, all of a sudden it's like, how the hell do you figure that out? It makes so much freaking sense. How come I can't think about it? Except because you've been programmed. You've been limited. So even on various levels, there are individuals that buck so-called the system. Even individuals in the system that bucked that system, it did better than those who followed with their nose down and followed the trail that the system laid out for them.
Chief,
Yes, go ahead.
may I share some similarities between religion and science?
Sure.
Because I have had 22 years of the church, so I can tell a little bit, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so with religion, they teach you God is great and you are shit, and scientists also tell you that they are great and you are shit. You know shit. You don't know shit. Yeah, you don't know shit. That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
And like, if anyone who doesn't know anything, or they supposedly, you may
We
have.
don't know what they claim you should know.
Like you were talking about, Chief, how you learned it on your own, and scientists may say, well, you don't know shit because you didn't go to the, density school of learning. And they kind of try to denigrate those who have learned, by hard knocks and by experience, which is a lot stronger than just learning by books. So like a lot of Christian people, they will look down on other people just because they aren't Christians. And scientists do look down on other people just because they didn't go through the same process of learning that they did. Ugh!
Mind studies,
Yeah.
all this other kind of stuff. When they can't measure everything there is to measure. I actually broke a thread years ago with someone who's touting. It had to do with actually people who were in Thailand who, believe in, the consciousness, spirits, and so on and so forth. Forest spirits and so on, and all of that. And that, had to do with asking permission of whoever that spirit was in that particular area of that forest. Can I relieve myself? And of course, some Westerners immediately jumped in and started making fun of them. And he was going on and on. He said, well, I believe in science, and into science says, and I said, okay, I've had enough of this shit. So I jumped in with my awareness and my knowledge. Not all of it comes from the ether. A shitload of it comes from observation and being able to put pieces together. There's a little tunnel vision like this. I'm like, this, I see it all. So I said, okay, well, you're denigrating these people for their beliefs when you don't even know, you don't even have their experience, you haven't even experienced any of this shit, but you're gonna sit there and tell them about scientists are your God. So I said, well, it sounds like you're saying that that scientists know everything there is to know in the universe, including yourself. I said, you know how it works? You think you know everything there is to know, and I'm not stupid enough to feel that way until there's something new to know. And it happens all the time in science. Oh yeah, well, we thought it was like that, but we find out it's not like that, it's like this now. So again, as Ms. A talked about how, again, this whole realm is religion. Science is religion as well. It's about what they claim they know within that little box, and what you don't know what's in their little box. Therefore, I can look down on you because you're not of my religious belief, or because you're not a scientist, and so on and so forth. They spend a lot of time trying to belittle people who are doing energy work and so on, those who actually had skills and ability to, manipulate things. So then they want to, put wires and this crap all in them, and then have them move stuff with their minds and so on and so forth. And I said, you know what? Scientists are funded by governments. And you know how governments are. They said, oh yeah, it's for the good of the people. You know that the internet was around, I don't think, a long time before they unleashed it on the freaking public. You know what they're using it for? Nefarious stuff. How can it take people's stuff? How can it control the minds of the masses? That's what scientists worked on for the government. So anyway, I won't go much farther into that. Okay. But I believe that answered your question.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You're welcome. But Ms. A, that's something else.
There's just a few more things that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can just rattle them off real fast.
Yeah, you don't have to rattle them off.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to go farther.
No, we can go, where you have, where you're not talking the movie.
Yeah.
But this is how the forums always work.
Right, free flowing. Chief, you were talking about in the Contact NSTHA movie review, you were saying that everything's religion and there's mob speech, right? Like gang speak.
Yeah.
And scientists are big on gang speak, and so are churches, religions. Mm-hmm. If you can rattle off a verse, any kind of Bible verse, they're like, oh, it's a good Christian. Or like if you can rattle off, what is pi? And you're like, you just spit out those numbers, and they're like, you're intelligent. That is a part of religion, mob speak, gang speak, you said.
Yes, it's programming, and to get enough people, I think I might talk about someone that I knew years ago, and we're under the same genetic community, so to speak, and hanging out together with this person, because it's kind of like discovering one another. What's your thing, man? Where you come from. Why is it you guys think whatever the way you think? But anyway, I ended up being around him and his friends, and some of the things that they thought were really cool or funny were very, very cruel and brutal things. And he would just, they go, yeah, cool, right? Cool. They go, yeah, cool. And then they turn to me, cool, right? I said, that is not cool. Causing little ladies to trip in the street is not cool, man. So, not that much different. They have their own little ideas about how things, and then, they have to be able to close their minds too, in order to stay in that box. Because they open it up too much, they get into trouble. There was a guy, I forget his name now, but it was, who was a psychiatrist. And for some reason, he had individuals coming in who were dealing with abduction, alien abduction stuff. And at first he said, he said, but there was, the fact that he would actually give them, I guess, appointments Others felt, well, this guy will give me an appointment. I can at least, talk to somebody about it. And he found that the stories kind of paralleled. And so he said, well, this can't be that everyone's, mass psychosis. I don't think we heard that one. That was a big one. This is mass psychosis because it doesn't go along with our limited perspective on things. So he ended up actually taking in more people because he actually, it was kind of interesting after a while. And then he actually got into doing research on the whole thing and showing up where certain crafts had landed. There's something on the internet having to do with a school in South Africa where this craft landed right in the schoolyard. And the kids were all there, and saw the entities come out and so on and so forth. And he interviewed all these kids. And after that, the psychiatric, institution started to berate him and belittle him. And curiously enough, within a couple years, he ended up dying of some weird cancer that a lot of these folks, if you've ever paid any attention to this stuff, individuals who are doing things that the system doesn't like come down with this certain type of cancer for some reason. And the next thing you know, they're gone. And this has happened to a number of individuals. If you care to, if you really want to know, I can refresh and do some research and then, bring it up in the next forum or something. If you're really curious about, this type of stuff that has been going on in the world for a long time. But again,
Okay.
Did I address what you were
Only
talking
two more
about?
things if you think so. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we
it's
can
fine.
skip it. Okay.
It's fine.
Next is that, scientists, they have a very evasive kind of teaching of the way that they want to, project things like force injections, on children, on adults, depending on whatever it is, or, forcing that kind of forceful attitude about their ideas. Christianity, or from my experience, is very forceful. They come to your door knocking, and sometimes they're very, very forceful, and they won't give up knocking on your door. It's harassment. You're forced to go to a Christian school if you're in the district where only that school is available for the children to learn, and you are forced to learn science. You don't have an option. Can I not take science class? And they're like, no, you have to. So it's very, like you said, cretinism.
Well, you said if you're going to a religious school, and when I was living in New York and living in Brooklyn, I was involved with a men's group, and I was doing rites of passages for young kids of color who were going to Catholic school. Now, it's not something that I chose to do, but he called me in for obvious reasons to work with these kids. But the reason their parents were sending them to these kids because they weren't as dangerous as the public schools, and they weren't as expensive as a high-level private school. So they would send their kids to the school, and in the process, they would indoctrinate them with concepts of Catholicism and so on and so forth. And there's plenty of stories about I think was it Catholic schools for girls, Catholic schools for boys, and I knew a lot of ex-Catholics for some reason. A lot of folks who left it. But what would happen with especially with Catholic school girls once they would graduate, from that repressive situation, and next thing you know, they're just it's like they used to do those videos. Girls Gone Wild or something like that. It was literally like that, A lot of stories about girls gone wild after they got out of Catholic school. So anyway, I don't know if that really, means anything much, but
It's lastly, what you were teaching me about, Chief, was like cretinism, where they think that theirs is the right way, theirs is the only way. Like in the church, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And like, for example, scientists believe that, you always see in movies, I believe in science. It is a religion. They talk about it just like that.
And it's extremely limited.
Ugh!
You got a scientist going to tell you about some galaxy, gazillion light years away, and I'm going to, believe in what he says, or what chemicals are on what planet, and he's never been there. But because we have this technology and so on and so forth, my question was, why are you so interested in that in the first place? Well, what's up with that? Anyhow, because it doesn't help a person's life if they're struggling to keep a roof over their head. Knowing that there's a lot of methane on Mars or something. So understand, with the scientific cabal, they're up to stuff anyway, and they're not in favor of people that work for the system. And everybody, and they said in the movie, are livestock. And they do treat you like livestock. But they distract you and give you some iPhones and some tech and stuff like that, and some music videos and all that stuff. And then, oh, we're all happy, nothing's really going on. But also, what's been going on recently, I guess within the earlier parts of the middle of the year, with all this weather stuff going on, and then finding out that they were trying their damnedest not to expose it to the American populace. And a number of Americans said, how come I don't know about this stuff? You know, this stuff's been going on since the beginning of the year. How come I, just now finding out about it, and I have to go to another source to find out about it? Another country's, videos to find out what's going on. Ms. A found a pretty interesting one.
Yes,
The guy from Azerbaijan.
yes.
He doesn't speak English, but it's Azerbaijani, but it's about celebrities and political figures in America who are glitching. So he managed to get his pass through, I guess, YouTube, because he wasn't speaking English. But you don't need English to see what's going on
Want me to go
in the
ahead?
videos.
Want me to go ahead and play it, Chief?
If you like to, you can go
Sure.
ahead and play it, yeah.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
And also, just lastly, you did talk about in other forums how those who are responsible for putting out whatever scientific discovery, you're saying that at first there was a food pyramid and then they changed it, and they're always
Right.
changing things because they claim to be gods, even if they don't say it, but then they're incorrect over and over. And there's a lot of, and you said it in another forum too, Chief, where those who are in religions, they go through the whole system and then they're so deep into it that they can't get out when they realize everything's a lie.
Yeah, there's been stories of guys who are ministers, by the way, and there's a number of interviews with these people, and the guy was saying, and there's more than just one guy was saying that I realized that it was bogus, but I have dedicated so much of my life to it that I didn't know what else to do, so I'm still doing sermons even though I don't believe in them. But continue.
Thank you.
Anyway, so do you have it?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Okay. Do I need to listen to it with sound?
So they can hear what the language is, but
Sure, it's an interesting sound.
İstesek de istemesek de bir şekilde bizi kendine
But you can explain it while,
Oh, okay, sure.
Neredeyse üçte biri sadece bir kutuya bakarak geçiyor. Sizce de çok garip bir durum değil mi?
Should I turn
Size
the
taptıklarıyla
volume
bizi
down?
Turn the volume down a little
Okay.
bit, but nobody understands what he's saying. But that gives you an idea. He's not speaking English, obviously.
Except for those who speak.
Yeah, those who speak, Azerbaijani, whatever the language is.
Yeah. So he's saying that this woman oh, it's not yet. The first scene is a woman has her own, I believe, talk show. And it's like she was getting hit with some kind of information or energy, it seems, because she looks shocked. But like, if you look at her face, she staggers backwards and almost touches her head, and then she just falls down. And it just looks really interesting.
Yeah, this is what's going on right now. That everything's glitching because everything's falling apart for the system. So.
Her face just looks shocked.
Yeah.
And then this is the one we already showed you with, I believe, Eminem. And they I don't know where they found this picture of Eminem doing the Satan sign over his forehead, but.
Well, I think you listened to something.
Oh yeah, he had a rap.
Yeah, he had a recent rap.
I sold my soul and I'm never getting it back.
Yeah, literally, we talked about it.
Sold my soul to the devil. Yeah, that's what he
He
said.
sold to the devil, and he's never gonna get it back.
Yeah.
And that's, and I think there's others who have saying stuff like that or rap, those types of lyrics.
Yeah, and they seem to regret it.
Yeah, well, they always regret it.
Yeah.
They always regret it.
Yes, Chief. This is Hillary Clinton, and her avatar is glitching. Her eyes are shifting, almost like she has two sets of eyes going on. And a lot of these videos show their eyelids doing irregular motion. Well, hers is, her eyes are crossed, and then her left eye quickly moves from the inner corner to the outer corner. And the woman who's interviewing her looks very disturbed.
There's so much of this stuff going on right now that I think they've given up on trying to debunk it.
Yeah. This woman, I think they're on some kind of show, and she looks annoyed, but her eyelids are doing some wild things, and I don't think she has control of it. So, yep.
Yeah, with some of these individuals, it's the things that are in them. And we've talked about celebrities who sold their souls, and there are things that take their place. And I think I singled out the movie Get Out for for that one scene where the woman's tapping the cup, and this guy goes into whatever a trance or something. Next thing you know, he's in this dark place and he doesn't know where he's at. And this happens to a lot of individuals who sell their souls for supposedly wealth, but then they don't actually get a chance to quote unquote enjoy it because something else is in there running around and doing their job of gathering essence for the system. Go ahead, Ms. A.
Yes, Chief. And then this is just a video of Beyonce, and she's having a moment. The only thing I can think of is that sometimes when people are uncomfortable, they rock back and forth. That's all.
Mhm.
This one we've already seen, where she hears, she goes quiet and she doesn't speak at all, and all she says is, "It's coming in," or "Something's coming in."
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, we have another one.
Is there just another one? Just one more?
I can skip forward.
Yeah, so we can, because that does have parallel some of what I'm going to talk about with the review of the movie.
I think, yes, Chief. This lastly, just as Lady Gaga, she is pretty much energyless. She can hardly get into a vehicle. And like you said, Chief, name of the game is destroying consciousness, taking their essence.
Yeah, and with him, I think he's talking about what the hell's going on.
Yeah, really.
Why are all these individuals who are supposedly notables behaving in such odd ways?
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
All right. So we can go ahead and just jump back where you had left off with the with the movie.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah, there was a lot of commotion in people's energy when you were doing the review about science versus religion, because it seems to be very ingrained in people.
Yeah. Well, folks are convinced,
Yes.
but there's so many things that are going on that science can't explain, but they even make up stuff, just to make it sound like they know what's going on. Oh yeah, this is just common. And say, well, how the hell is it common when most people haven't seen this before? So they were. I don't know if they're still doing that, but as of a month ago, they were like, oh yeah, we understand what's going on. No, you don't understand what's going on. And they're scared crapless. If you really look closely, their knees are probably knocking. Because they can't handle the fact that they're losing control. And it's not losing control, they haven't lost control. It's just tumbling down. They can't even keep their celebrities in line anymore or tuned up properly anymore. So they're glitching, right? Because again, we were talking about that in forums, that they consider people to be toys also.
Yes, Chief.
Their avatar is a toy.
You talked about people walking around either mildly or extremely possessed.
Yeah, everyone who's not doing sessions have them in it. Even when you're doing sessions, I'm pulling stuff out constantly, and the numbers are dropping. That's why some of you are feeling much lighter, because I am pulling this stuff out of you. But you've been dogpiled. People are so dogpiled they can't even see the light, and they can feel the weight of the entities on them, but they don't know what the hell it is because they wait for the system to tell them what's going on. I got this weird pain that I can't figure out what's coming from in my arm. I'll go to the doctor. Take these pills and we'll do some studies. What is it that they like to say? It's not studies, but it's literally we'll put you through all of our regimen of machines and jab and poke you, give you pills and so on and so forth. And sometimes they just say, I don't know what's going on with you, because it's energetic. And they don't deal with energy, they deal with the system. And what the system wants them to say or wants them to do. And folks would think when I was a kid, God was a doctor. A doctor might as well be considered a god. Excuse me. So any problem, got a cough, you're purging, go to the doctor. Well, I got a pill for you. Keep that purging from happening. And had an in-law who was, a head doctor of a hospital, who couldn't beat me in a debate about medicine. And when I cornered the person, they'll say, well, it's not an exact science. So if you challenge doctors and you get the best of them, they'll usually say, well, it's not an exact science. They call it a practice after all. But they don't know everything, and they never will. And the majority of them don't know just the basic things about the energetic human body. This is what they know where they put that? The scientists. So anyway.
And Chief, you were saying that a lot of doctors use pills or pharmaceuticals. They're experimental. They don't even have enough information on those pills, but they're using people as the guinea pigs.
Yeah, this has been going on for a while, where pharmaceutical companies will come through and they will give the doctors some kind of a kickback to use certain pharmaceuticals that they're trying to push. So the doctor's actually experimenting on his own patients because he doesn't know the side effects of of the pills, but he knows he's getting more money. And this is not, an uncommon thing. They even did a movie on it actually some years ago. Actually, I think in the 90s maybe, or it could have been in the 2000s, about a pharmaceutical pill peddler and going to these different clinics and so on and so forth, and offering, money to doctors to use their pharmaceuticals. Sometimes to replace other companies' pharmaceuticals with theirs. So, as I've always said, hospitals don't really have your best interest in mind. But if you want to get your bone set, you might be okay to go to the doctor. But there were individuals before doctors who used to set bones. But maybe they got rid of them, like they got rid of most of the midwives back during the witch hunt stuff. But anyway.
Yes, Chief. So the next one is, please, this is a quote from the movie They Live. Please understand they are safe as long as they are not discovered. This is their primary method of survival, to keep us asleep, to keep us selfish, and to keep us sedated.
Yeah, and that's pretty true. Yeah. So they do give you some real, some real true lines. But that's how confidence, scamsters work. They give you something that actually makes sense, that's actually real, and then once they got you on the hook, then they switch it up that the scientists are here to help you escape from the system. Religious figures are here to help you escape from the system. But anyway.
And you were talking about, Chief, like their whole theme was like save humanity,
Right.
But on all your Ralph Breaks the Internet movie reviews, those were, you were talking about how people are.
Yeah, that the majority of the planet are full of Ralphs who trying to wake them up is a waste of time, literally. So
Yes, Chief.
I don't know if there's anything else I can add to that, but
Yes,
so,
Chief. The forums definitely, the Ralph Breaks the Internet were definitely thorough about people's character, and it goes on to say things like there's a program, Chief, I think, that says in order to not be selfish, you need to save humanity. And it's just an extreme. Either you're totally into yourself or you're gonna save humanity. There's no balance in between.
Yeah, there's no in between points. Reality of the matter, if you're thinking that you're going to evolve out of this nonsense by waking up the whole population, you're fooling yourself. And there's some line from, I shouldn't say a line from the Matrix, but they talked about that in that scene with the woman in red, that there are so people inured, with the system and what they think it has to offer, because they're convinced that driving an expensive car and living in a big house means you have it made. But a lot of times people, it's about trying to look good as well. So they're, if something happens as far as them losing their job, it's not long before they lose all that stuff. They want to look like they're, ballers or whatever, and they have millions, when in reality, they're still working days. And they just make enough money to where they can just look a certain way, rather than be practical, they're just trying to impress. But I think I went off in a different direction with that, if you can bring it back to where.
No problem, Chief. I just thought I'd read the quote from the Matrix that I have here. It says that you brought up, you have to understand most of these people are not ready to be unplugged, and many of them are so inured, so hopelessly dependent on the system that they would fight to protect it. Anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent.
Yeah, and that's literally, the truth of the, in the movie The Matrix. That's literally how it is. So, this kumbaya stuff, and we need to wake up the system gave you that idea. Because they know it doesn't work. Because they know that the masses, the majority of the individuals are their operatives because they have been so programmed. And those who are not as programmed are considered to be weirdos. Or just crazy, or just, lunatics or whatever. Okay.
Thank you, Chief. The next phrase that was interesting from the movie They Live are, we are their cattle. We are being bred for slavery.
Yeah, and that's truth also. Yeah, and you talk about slavery also in the Matrix. You've been a slave.
Thank you, Chief. So the next thing is about the subliminal messages and everything. Would you like me to show some pictures while you have some
Yeah,
thoughts?
you can show some. Yeah.
Okay. I'll just read to
Because
you.
those who haven't seen it, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and show the image and then say it out loud for you, Chief.
Yeah, you can show the images
Okay,
and then
sure.
we'll address it.
So there's a billboard, and when they don't wear the glasses, it looks like this. It just says, "We are creating the transparent computing environment," just like a regular
Like a regular
ad or something. Yeah. And then when they put the glasses on, it says "obey." And Chief, you were giving an example in another form about how they injected some young children so that they couldn't see the other side.
Right.
And second sight, I think you said?
Yeah, you can call it second sight, but actually seeing the real.
The real, okay.
Yeah.
So for when they see the hologram, it says, "Come to the Caribbean," as a woman in a red bikini. And then when he looks at what's supposedly the real, which it says, "Marry and reproduce." And this movie did a great job of, showing what happens on a regular basis for people.
Yeah, this is the programming that goes on in the system. What's cool about it, they're addressing the subliminal programming. That you think you're seeing something. And I think they used to have these trick glasses when I was a kid, that if you wore them, it would actually be like that. You would actually see, like decoder glasses or something. And they used to, come in I don't know if they came in a box of cereal, but you needed a certain number of coupons from the cereal box, and you get a decoder glass, a pair of decoder glasses, and and you can look at something, or with invisible ink or something, you can write something or whatever, and you can look through something. Oh wow, but when you write, you don't see it, but then you look through whatever this magnifying glass or whatever this glass, then you can see what you're writing. That's the kind of stuff. That's kind of maybe not to say lightweight, but that's similar to how they've been functioning for a long, long time. I know in the 70s they were talking about what department stores were doing with the music that they were playing in the department stores, like through the 60s and so on, probably the 50s, where they would have subliminal messages with the music were just low enough to where you couldn't probably make it out, but they understood how the subconscious worked. So it was like like this the billboards, like buy, buy, while this elevator type music is playing through the store. So they've done this stuff for a really long time, and I'm not the first one who would talk about this stuff. Even with video, when things changed from video to digital and so on and so forth. But when they were still using video, there were they would actually interject less than a split second message to the mind. So you're watching, and you think you're just watching, an action movie or something, or an action TV show, but you're also being programmed because they have these words in between. I guess it was like what you call
Frames.
the frames, yeah.
And you were talking about, Chief, how there are movies where maybe a rock will hit the ground and the dust will form the word sex. Or if you play a song backwards, it'll say kill, kill, kill, kill them all or something.
Yeah. A lot of things that they know that your consciousness picks up. Because the consciousness is not linear, really, and they're aware of that. That's why they spend so much time, just trying to lock it down and put it into, a coma. But they know that if they can infiltrate with subliminal messages, it'll end up becoming part of your, how you behave, or your belief system, or even with certain music. I remember the Sun Unit was telling me, this is after he was an adult, young adult, about when he was in his teens, and I was a little concerned about some of the stuff that they were, a lot of the stuff that they were putting out music-wise, and he got into rap, and he said there was a Tupac song, I can't tell you which one it was at this point, that had something in it that he felt was weird, because he said he just found himself listening to it all day long. And to the point where he got so weird with it that, he's under his bed with this, his, I forgot what at bottom he was listening on an iPod or something like that, listening to this song over and over again. And he said there was something really weird about it, Dad, but so with everything. So even your favorite song, if it comes from the music industry, and it's not some street performer out there, whatever, 10 times out of 10 you've been programmed.
And Chief, you were talking about people emotionally connecting to the singer and then looking up to them or being thankful for them in a way that opens them up. And then they listen to the song and it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, it is a double whammy. If you want to do a little muscle test having to do with how often you're being programmed by this, these people that you look up to as artists and and actors and so on and so forth. But we're going to go with music. They're already having that connection. And I'm going to do protection from the day, of course, before we get into it. Thank you. You know why they have such a hard time? It's because it has to do with what I'm talking about, it has to do with the mind, how you think. And that's why they're always focusing on the mind. But then the body is just an illusion. It's the mind, the consciousness that they're interested in. Yeah, they've been pretty touchy recently. They're getting really desperate. All right. Welcome. Good. So, what percentage of the time are you being brainwashed by your favorite music? 50% of the time? 100% of the time? How often are you being brainwashed by the movies that come out of Hollywood, major studios? 50% of the time? 100% of the time? Now you can watch this stuff, but be aware. See, they don't like awareness. So if you're aware that, you know, they're probably trying to brainwash me, it weakens it. So then you just watch and look, yeah, that's an interesting story, but I know you're trying to brainwash me. And then you start to observe how they're trying to brainwash you. Or these shows where it's, you know, you gotta have family, it's gotta be family. Or, you know, you gotta have friends. You know, if you don't have friends, go out and find some. Go to the bar, get yourself a friend. So don't be discerning. Let's grab a friend.
Our friendship.
Yeah. Or even in so-called romance, relationship. Wow, he looks good. I like to have him. You don't even know him. She looks good. I'd sure like to have her. That's programming. Have you walking blindly into a freaking airplane propeller? Because they don't want you to think. They just want you to do. Just like what I said, you know, get married and have children, or there was that one.
Marry and reproduce.
Marry and reproduce. You know.
No individual thoughts.
Yeah, and no individual thoughts. I don't know if you guys saw that in the movie as well. So these guys are really hitting on some real stuff, you know.
Obey.
Obey.
Consume.
And what was it when he's looking at the dollar, looking at the money? This is your God.
Watch.
That's so true for so many people. People kill each other over money.
Watch TV.
No, second.
TV. Watch TV.
Hold it.
Okay, I'm trying.
I'll take care of these idiots. Anyone else want to keep messing around? Want to mess around? Want to play? I own you. Back up. From the how. this is insanity that controls the world, have been controlling the world. This insane, crazy laughing, this stuff people do that they put up, this is really cool, this guy, and it's dangerous, unnecessary stuff. Is that cool? That's all bungee jump. Isn't that cool? Is it necessary? When they started doing that, actually, they took some spiritual belief from another culture and made it into a game. Then people were jumping off of these high things, and then the thing would snap. And, people still do this shit because they're programmed. Okay, don't have any original thoughts. Don't figure out, maybe this is dangerous. Maybe I'm taking a chance by doing this. Obey. Take the jab. Don't question. Don't read those stories. Or even governors are like, I think I'm going to sue you guys because a lot of my people are having issues that are permanent, life-altering, damaging, life-altering. So this movie really addresses that. I really like that part of it. But I know where they're, like muddying the waters. So I can look at it and say, yeah, we're talking about some little stuff. But this here, this is to neutralize the message. Let's all get together and have a rebellion in wherever they were having their, their little meeting. So, I just wanted to do that part. But to just really clear, because again, I'm tapping in and I'm messing with their little thing, the Alexa video about, they're here and they're destroying everything we worked so hard for. They worked so hard for them, not for you. You're just a toy, you're just a food, you're just a joke. Yeah, well, I need to quit trying to talk while they're doing that. One, two, three. It's a little weighty. Okay. All right.
Okay. So other subliminal messages that, like for example, it's like a men's apparel sign, and then when you, whenever they have the glasses on, when they're looking at, about the reel or something, it says no independent thought, and so this one says closeout sale, and then underneath, whenever you see the reel, it says consume. And then it pans to a whole shot of the town or the city, and it has a bunch of different signs everywhere. Submit, watch TV, sleep for 8 hours, play for 8 hours, stay asleep, conform,
by, and there's some others, no thoughts. And it's interesting because all over there's antennas sticking out of buildings, there's satellites everywhere on top of buildings, all projecting.
Yeah, but in other words, unless you're wearing the glasses or something, you couldn't see all of those, right? Or is it some of them?
This was some of them you can see, some of them you can't see. That was cool.
Well, which is how it is in real, in so-called real life. There are things that they have in broad daylight, but you just think, oh, these are electrical wires or whatever, but they have a dual, purpose. I think it was last year they were doing the 5G thing, and I think they kind of silenced it for a while. Like they backed off from it because there are certain individuals who were exposing what was going on with this 5G, where they have one of these towers near trees and things, and the trees would start to, one side of the tree, the closest to the tower, would die. So half the tree would just die because of the vibration coming from these towers. And even though the family unit lives out in certain areas of in the country where they have a tower not that far from where they live, and she's sensitive, so she was feeling all this real funky energy coming from that particular location. That's how tuned in she was, as far as like how with energy, that she could actually feel and pinpoint where it was coming. And she said, I know that energy is not a positive energy. So even with the sheer number of satellites, and excuses for putting a bunch of satellites in the sky, and I would hazard a guess that there's not as many up there as you think anymore because of other things that are going on out there. But again, one of the things I noticed when I was reading, there's a guy who did a series of books, and I might have mentioned it before, called the Humanoid Reports. And for some reason, they'll come up, and then they'll block them off of there.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this guy is, his site was up for a few years. So I was just taking my good old leisure time, just reading this stuff. It was so much that I would actually have my computer read this, all these incidents that he had compiled. And some of them I actually had read before years ago, but there's a lot of stuff that I hadn't read, where he goes all the way back to, I think, like the 1400s in Europe or somewhere in Holland, some sightings of a lot of orbs and things in the sky at that particular time. And since they didn't have, photographic cameras, there are illustrations of these particular, these things that they saw in the sky. And one of the things I noticed that there are other things that individuals were seeing, little anomalies and so on, little people and all that kind of stuff. That was kind of common at a certain point. But I noticed that when they started to throw up electrical wires everywhere, the sightings started to diminish to the point where it was kind of a rarity. And then, the system could just say, oh, you're just imagining things. But if you flash back to 100 years before, it was common for folks to see weird things, or what they would consider to be weird things. And even older people, even when I was a kid, their the grandmother unit had stories. And I know she didn't have any reason to, to lie to me, and she was quite a sane person as far as I knew about some of the things that she and those of her time were experiencing, having to do with stuff that aren't supposed to be here. And it's only with Western if we will say shit like that. This shouldn't exist. Who the hell told you what shouldn't or should exist? Do you know the universe? It is vast. That's impossible. Shows your mind's in a box about this size, or maybe this size. If you can say, oh, something's impossible. Really? Some people may say it out of shock, but if you really mean it, your mind is in a little, like a thimble or something. That's how broad your mind is, how shut down it is. So anyway, we're going to go back to, now we got to the subliminal stuff. There are some things that were going on before that. Or other than, I guess, the whole No, that was, yeah, you're right on it, because that's before he tried to force the other actor,
Into,
Frank, to, you know, to look through the glasses, which is,
yes.
you know. And the main character, I would say, someone would think he was crackers anyway, because his behavior was really bizarre. You know, it's like he wasn't thinking. All of a sudden he's going out and he's like, you know, causing trouble because all of a sudden he realizes that, hey, you know, there's all these weird looking things out there. Put the glasses on. They're weird. Take the glasses off. You know, they look like regular people. So, however they wrote that, I don't know. They made him seem really pretty ridiculous, to tell you the truth. So, but it was kind of funny, you know. It's like I'm here to, you know, chew bubble gum and kick ass or something like that.
I'm all out
Chew
of bubble gum.
and I'm all out of bubble gum. You know? Mama don't like no tattletales and stuff like that. That was cute. It was funny, you know. But the reality of it is just, you know, they kind of made it a bit of a joke also, while they're actually showing you things that are really going on.
Want me to finish a few of the pictures?
Yes, you can go ahead and
Okay.
finish it. Please.
So he's looking at a magazine rack, and people, you know, think, you know, what's wrong with magazines? But then all of them say submit, marry, and reproduce, stay asleep, obey, all different kinds of commands that density tells you. And people think, oh, I have what is it? I'm a free thinker, or I have my freedom of choice.
Yeah.
Hardly, it's very difficult. Or this person is, he opens up a news article and it says classroom disarmament and has like a graph here and like an officer getting an award of some type. And then when he looks at it through the glasses into the real, watch TV, no imagination.
Yeah. So things that you would consider to be benign aren't really.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like you said about the money. People
Mhm.
don't think that there's subliminal messages on the money, Chief, right?
Yeah.
Tons of them.
Yeah. You know, basically, yeah. Literally, what they were showing is one of probably numerous types of messages that they have on currency to prop up what you consider bad behavior. And I think they did talk about people behaving badly, you know, and they wanted to put it on these entities or why people are behaving badly, which I would say, yeah, to a degree. But certain individuals, they meld with their density, therefore their bad behavior just becomes, they're still, you know, they're really responsible because they're allowing something very dense to take over their steering wheel and behave badly.
Yes, Chief. Whenever you did the forum, the forum of the 21st Women's Forum, Chief, that was the forum where you're talking about people melding with their attachments.
Mhm.
And
Well, again, you know, if you all you know from the time you were born is that, you know, all your information came from the system, you know, from the parental units, which means it's coming from the system, and you know, and so on. Even if an individual think that they're enlightened in some way, it's enlightened light, because the system doesn't allow true enlightenment. You know, they say, well, how am I enlightened? Because I'm not part of the system. I didn't come in to be part of the system. That's not what I came in here to be. Be a waste of existence for me to actually live out a life the way that most people live their lives in this world. And the deeper, you know, with the Matrix talking about see how deep the rabbit hole goes. Yeah, it's pretty deep. But again, it's not impossible to bring it down because it's coming down now. But it has to do with the mind. So they're going to make sure that they shore up enough individuals to keep certain things functioning. But I really do feel like, you know, they're losing ground, you know, big time. You know, even with this one brainwash about taking this, you know, vaccine, even as insane, if you really watch how they started it out from the beginning to even where it's at right now, it's so insane. The way that they were, you know, you know, we don't have a vaccine. Oh no, we have a vaccine. Then someone said, oh, we had a vaccine before they even announced that this thing was going on. And you know, and okay, well, the reports of people dying from it. Let's cover that up. You know, and then oh, don't look that way. Just obey, obey. Why won't you obey? They even had a client, an ex-client, who said, you know what the problem is? People aren't observing the social distancing, and they're going out and they're getting together anyway. It's not hoax. Even the one about the basketball players, all coming down with COVID. Yeah, it's no COVID. They're up to something else. And a lot of it has to do with further mind control. They were doing this stuff before they did the COVID stuff. And they were practicing on all these other flu vaccines and so on and so forth, just to see how many people would actually take it. So then they have to tweak it. Because folks were, some part of them was still suspicious of the government. And the medical association is part of the system. Everything is part of the system. There's no separation. All these countries that hate each other, they're part of the same system. It's just a performance. People dying is just like, video game, because they say, well, it's an advertisement, we're going to take this consciousness and put it in something else. And they just keep using it, like, again, Matrix, the battery. But it goes over lifetimes until there's nothing left. A black ooze. So anyway, is that?
Yes, Chief. So next we have the pictures you were talking about in the Matrix review, that everything is was on the grid, and whenever someone is doing something the system is against, there is a signal that goes out, and it was showing all these entities started talking in their watches and describing the person, and then all of a sudden all these eyes turn on the street and look at the guy. Yeah. And he's in the grocery store and they're all looking at him and talking into their communicators.
Yeah. Now you don't even need to go as far as I go with it, and they would attack you. They, if you're thinking outside of the box that they want you in, then there's, night terrors, shadow people, bumps in the night in your house, something's pulling the covers off. That's just to pull you, so you can crawl back into fear. But I've had all that stuff happen when I was in my 20s on into 40s. And there was some illogical fear. I said, why am I afraid of this? So I did ask for assistance from the associates on that one. And they said, get angry. But you know where it's coming from. Get angry at them and challenge them. I did. They don't like challenge. They run everything on fear. If you notice, fear of being poor, fear of being sick, fear of being a certain racial group, fear of being a woman. So they run everything on fear. Once you get past the fear, which is you're swimming in it, so your consciousness can start to whip that stuff away. I have clients who said, hey, I used to really be afraid of a lot of stuff, but I'm not even afraid, or I'm not even afraid. And I know some have proven to me that they're not afraid. They do use the tools, things come up because, you know what, I gave them something to fight with. So they go to their, religion of choice or whatever, and cross your heart and evoke the, Christ God and so on and so forth. And they will go away. If they're running away, either they're a newbie, on the other side, or they're jerking you around. Because religion doesn't scare them. And these items don't scare them. You know why they don't? Because they give them to you. And this will work against me. Try this.
And then they scream and act like it's painful.
Yeah, oh, he got me. Oh, yeah. I know how they work. So as long as they can, placate you in some way and get you back into the chicken coop or into your hiding hole or whatever. So I've had a lot of stuff, come after me with that. not enough to keep me from searching and keep moving forward, because that's how my consciousness works. But anyway, then
Yes, Chief.
we can.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think, unless you feel like there's something else I can add to that.
No, I'm going to add to what you said
Yeah, go
because whenever they're like, the warning signal went out, they kept saying, we have one that can see,
Right,
besides describing what he looked like.
yeah. Well, you have probably seen the ad from Ms. Oracle A. She's one of those
It's
individuals.
Oracle L, Chief.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. They're just fucking around. I'll show the
Oracle L.
I'll show the image, Chief.
And she had that happen numerous times because they said, we got one who can see. And it had to do with them trying to bump her off when she was an infant. And I don't know, she might be okay with me telling a bit of the story, where a rat bite, we were living in a tenement in Chicago. And her face swelled up to the point where there were no features, and the mother unit thought she was surely dead. But, after she was just, strong, there's nothing to do, and she comes back in the room and notices that the swelling is starting to cool down, which means there's a reason. Just as a reason why I'm here, there's a reason why she is here also. The mission started long before I came in this avatar. So what happened, it got to the point where she was able to see a whole lot of dimensions that nobody else could see. And they tormented her throughout a good part of her life to shut her down. And when I got to a certain level of juice, I went in and literally had with a sledgehammer to break down those walls of fear in order to get her to do what she's doing now. Seeing all of these dimensions. I got one who can see. But I won't go into her story, that's for her to tell. Any further than that, anyway.
Yes, Chief.
But that's an example of, these guys looking at their watch. We got someone who can see. And they, what they did in that, seeing the cops go and say, oh, come on, buddy, why don't you just go along with the program? It doesn't have to be such a problem or whatever. But that was before he started shooting them. Killing them. We're transitioning them, really. Then it's, okay, we're going to have to bump this guy off.
And while I'm just looking for the next thing, but it was a lot of fun to watch the same forum with Miss Oracle L, and she just share her perspective of what she sees, and it just makes the experience even better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking for the next quote. Okay, so the next thing that there is one interesting thing was in the grocery store scene, which I just showed an image of those entities who were turning on Roddy because he was making a scene. He did
He
not.
was being goofy.
No savvy at all.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but interesting enough, at the beginning of the movie, he says something that the entities say in the grocery store. And realizing, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
You
I'm
first.
just going along with what you're saying.
Just realizing that he was saying that he was programmed to say or agreed with whatever the entities had told him to.
Well, because that was his programming.
Yeah.
Until he saw proof due to his nosiness, for one.
Yeah, he was really aggressively
nosy.
nosy.
Yeah, aggressively nosy guy. And then all of a sudden he stumbles on to this, the next thing, but he was actually talking the system talk in the beginning. I believe in the system more or less, or I believe in America, and that things are going to get better. I was just hanging there, and so on and so forth. And I've heard this rhetoric told to certain groups of people. Let's see, that had to be about 30 years ago or something like that. And shit doesn't change. But they'll sit there, and this guy was actually part of a religious group. Just be patient. It's all going to change. It's just, you just have to be patient. I said, when after I'm croaked, then, it's going to change. It doesn't change. He was just part of the system talking out of his bum. Because he's a program. And he felt that he was benefiting from the system. Therefore, he's going to support the system with the rhetoric. or he believed because of his station in so-called life that things are going well for me. I don't want these yahoos, shaking it up for me. Just calm down. It'll be good for you. You'll get yours. You'll get yours. He said, no, they won't. There's a lot of folks who tell you like, oh, why are you searching, whatever? Why do you want to upset things? They're delusional. They don't realize that they're food too. And when they have the inkling, just rip their heads off like a Barbie doll, and throw it in the corner, they will do it. They don't honor anything that they say. Nothing. Which leads to, again, we won't be doing that movie with Bedazzled. It's just straight right in your face.
This one's pretty straightforward a little bit.
Okay.
I mean,
you
mean the
gonna say?
movie, right?
Yeah, this movie is definitely straightforward. But again, you just be aware of how they want to muddle it and make it in other words, starts to send you off into thinking, like I said, how to fight against whatever they are. If they're giving you the tools to fight against it, if you're not aware, you should be aware that they're infiltrators all over the place. Even in the movie, there's a scene where I guess they end up at this meeting and kind of jumping ahead of it, and this woman that who he more or less hijacked her while he was running away from doing stupid stuff. And he ends up in her car, and then she ends up at he ends up at her house, where he's just can't fathom that this woman could be part of that system. But anyway, I don't want to get too deep into it. I want to stay on it chronologically.
Yes, Chief. Yeah, totally in agreement with what you have already shared with us in other forums, because even on the NSTHA media rating system on the website, They Live has 25% programming, 75% NSTHA information, and Bedazzled has 20%, programming that they hit you with over the other. But we'll keep.
Well, they put enough programming in it so that the regular average person will just not really totally get the picture, as much of the picture as they could get without the program. So they have to put some kind of program, romance or again, the thing they did with this one is that who's going to save you? Scientists and religion. Even though I think they might have mentioned, the one guy mentioned that there are clergy who are taking the deal as well or something like that. I think there's a scene where I believe the one character says something like that. We're just saying that anybody will sell out. Doesn't matter, what group you are, what organization you belong to, what religion you belong to. You're going to always have, again, it's redundant because it's all owned by density anyway, created by it. So to find people who are into it, it's not surprising.
Do you want me to read that quote, Chief, specifically?
Yeah, you can go ahead
It
if
says,
you have it.
yes, it's business. That's all it is. There are no countries. They own the whole planet. They can do whatever they want. What's wrong with having it good for a change? They'll let us have it good if we just help them. They'll leave us alone and let us have some money. You want some money? You can have some of this too. Everyone wants a taste of the good life.
Yeah, that's in the movie. Yeah.
We all sell out every day is what he said.
Yeah, he said we all sell out every day. You say, well, how does that work? You're selling out every day. But anyway, that was a little raggy around the edges. But what they read initially is literally, how the mindset is, And again, it goes along with, the movie The Matrix, where, he said people are so into and so dependent on the system that they can't imagine, the system not being there, So they'll do anything they can to keep it going. But one thing about density, they're really good at shooting themselves in the foot because they like to play with their food and screw around with you over and over and over again because they were confident that nothing was ever going to change. They could keep lying about stuff and telling you, oh, you're going to have a good life, and then find out there's strings attached to the good life. Or, if you want to be a major rock star or something, just sign in the dotted line here, and you're going to have all this stuff. They go, oh, yeah. And then as soon as they sign a contract, some reptilian or some other kind of entity who walks up, says, okay, you're going to get in this box and I'm going to take over your avatar. I said, where did that say that? And, then you read the fine print. There is no fine print. Yeah, we lied. Get in the box, bastard. So that's why you're seeing footage of people doing things at events, and all of a sudden their hands turn into some really weird clawed hand or something, or their eyes are shifting to black, or because their initial consciousness is not in there anymore. They may have some talent. They say, I can use that avatar. That avatar works pretty well. Look how well it sings and dances and so on and so forth. We can really get a lot of essence if we get everyone following this individual. Yeah, give them a contract. They'll go for it. Tell them lots of money. They'll always buy it because people are suckers.
I have this shape-shifting video, Chief,
Okay.
because you were talking about reptilians and also that, but you were saying not to assume that every time there's a shapeshifter.
That is a reptilian, or and Palladians don't really shapeshift supposedly, but I've seen some stuff. But again, there's more than reptilians and Palladians, but I'll wait till we get to
Yes,
the question and answer part of it.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll get to it
Yeah, hopefully.
today. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna turn the volume up. So this woman is yelling or talking loudly, and she turns into the guy she touches, and she grabs the bag and runs away quickly with all the people's cameras out and everything. And the guy she knocked out, his eyes are rolled back in his head. People are just walking around him. One of the theater workers came to help, and then immediately when he touched him, the guy just runs off and chases after the woman who knocked him out. Or whatever she is. Yeah, entity thing. All right.
Now they couldn't debunk it because too many people were filming it.
Yeah, a lot.
So,
It's got from different angles, Chief.
Yeah, and we've shown you other, things that, I think that they felt like they shot themselves in the foot by introducing iPhones with, all this video capability and, and so on. So I think someone asked if this person was a reptilian or something.
Yes, Chief.
She could be, or it can be anything. Because again, the concept of thinking they're reptilian, or they're Palladian, or they're sectoid, or they're Nordic, or I've been in this battle for a good while, and especially in the last 4 years, and even Ms. A being, part of
Yes, Chief.
the sessions, she sees a lot of stuff. She sees the things I see as well. And I guarantee that not all reptilians and Palladians and sectoids. Some of the weirdest things you want to see are out there. But they're all, what matters is whether they're above the line of demarcation or below it. That's how I read them, by energy. Below means dense. Above means, you don't run into people that mean people are above it. I'm just telling you that. There are people right on the line, very few above. Those who are out there flying around and stuff, they're above. Those ones in particular, not the ones you saw in these videos, since the 50s and so on and so forth, up until, the last several years. Even up until like the beginning, the end of the year before last, 2019. When you stop seeing as many dense, those who pay attention, dense crafts out there. What you see out there primarily now are light beings. A lot of the orbs, they ships are light beings. And too bad you don't have that one where it just freaked the hell out of people. Because of the fact that they know that this is an illusion, they were able to increase the size of their craft and then shrink it like that and then shoot off.
Yeah, they thought it was like another moon or another sun or something. But then when it shrinked and like flew off, they were like,
They all screamed. Yeah, they literally screamed because all of a sudden
Sorry.
what they were taught, the reality,
Right.
impossible was happening.
Right. Yeah, I always thought it was really crazy about how they would say something is impossible while it's right in front of them. I'm like, oh,
Well, I guess there's something's impossible. You've never seen everything. People said stuff was impossible, and then all of a sudden it's possible. But that's a science that comes in there. Also, scientists can't prove that they can't do a double-blind study and recreate it in their lab. Then it doesn't exist, literally, which is ridiculous. But if you believed in them, it means that you were steeped in a program. Seriously brainwashed. But it's okay. Once you learn something, you start moving away from it. That's what's important. Not the fact that you believed in this nonsense that they were been selling for a long, long time. So I have a density, barometer, and I can tell density so easily. So a lot of music that was coming out in the last, I'd say maybe 30 plus years or whatever, so much of that stuff was just, I felt when I listened to it. Or even stuff from someone like, Beyonce or whatever. They're a great voice, but whatever the hell they had interlaced in that music made me feel, I said, maybe I'm missing something. All these people are into this person, maybe I'm missing something. So this is a few songs. That's kind of a nice song. And then all of a sudden it tapped out. I wasn't interested in listening to it anymore. Anything. These guys are like, he's the most popular, performer on the, in the planet in America, so on and so forth. I said, who's that? I said, play something. And they go, wow, he's really singing a lot of programming. So again, it goes to, you're not, do you think saving humanity is part of your little fantasy of freeing yourself? Forget about it. You're not going to free everybody. And it's hard enough freeing yourself. And you don't need company, to actually, grow and enlighten. If you really want to know who you're trying to, reconnect with, are those outside of this realm, not those in here who are so damaged by lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of just a beat down to the point where they don't know whether they're coming or going. For all they know, they get mad if you don't follow the system. What was the one guy that said that anyone that doesn't get the jab is not. I will not associate with anyone who doesn't get the the vaccine. And then I had my retort.
Chief, thanks for the compliment, but you always see much more than I could ever see. Like you were talking about even music, people, anything, you can see the energy and the shape of it, even the thoughts and ideas. Like when I would talk to you just casually and you see it energetically, which is really cool. You were talking about music being dead and you could see the energy of the music and how it affects people.
Yeah, because I see it with my whole consciousness. So that's another thing. You're supposed to actually sense everything with your whole consciousness. You're not supposed to see with just your eyes. And a lot of folks do feel it, but then they ignore it because the eyes aren't seeing it. But I think that's changing now. There's more acceptance that there are things on the other side because the veil is coming down, and there's this weight on that. And I say this. I've been saying this for quite a few forums now. There's way too much evidence, of things that they were speculating on actually being and existing. There are certain cultures where these guys believe, in the other realms and ghosts and so on and so forth. But if they're asked by certain individuals in an interview, do you believe in ghosts? They won't admit that they believe in ghosts, but they're always looking for them. Because in reality, they do believe, but they're afraid of what the system's going to say to them. You know, they're afraid of being ridiculed or having their financial situation upset. You know. So anyway, Ms.
Yes. So Frank says maybe they've always been with us. Maybe they love it. Love seeing us hate each other and watching us kill each other and feeding off our own cold fucking hearts.
Yeah, and that's another bit of truth. You know, what I've been saying for a while. And a lot of the stuff I didn't really get from this movie. I didn't really. When I started to review movies, then I said, oh, wow. But I didn't get it subliminally. I had this since I was a kid. Before these movies were even made, that was part of my mindset. And even more, stuff that I haven't even talked about. You know, things that are just a little too weird until they start to expose it. Then, you know, then as they start to expose it, then you know they're getting ready to expose things, and I'll share it with you. So that when it happens, you know, how the hell do you know this stuff? That's to do with what I'm connected to. And a number of things that nobody of you know that I've said over the last couple of years that have come to fruition. It's not like, it's just another way of helping you, help me help you free yourself. But anyway.
You were talking to, thank you. You were talking about the, you know, the extreme spectrum where in one person, there'll be selfishness like, I want a man, then I deserve that man. Or I want a woman, I deserve that woman. And then the others far swing to like, save humanity in the same person. And then, but you were saying, you know, forget that. Respect and consideration for those who give you respect and consideration. And savvy for those who treat you like an asshole. Thank you. You were teaching us those things. And I was just, because he was saying people have cold fucking hearts, but you were, because they were taught to be extreme, you know, either swing all the way good or bad, evil.
Yeah, good or evil. You know, some go to an extent of if someone does something really nice for them, yay! And then if that person does something not so nice, boo! And then if the person does something nice, yay! You know, it's insane. It's just like a whoop, whoop, whoop, like this. And a lot of people are like that. A gift, you know, is a good thing. But I mentioned, I believe, earlier on in some earlier forums, that too many gifts have strings attached. So I don't expect anyone to do what I'm doing, but I don't really go for gifts. You know, I don't expect gifts in these contrived celebratory holidays, including, you know, Incarceration Day. I told family units when I was 18 years old, don't buy me gifts. And I'm not going to buy you gifts. So we're even, okay? So don't give me a gift and then say, why did you give me a gift? Don't give me a gift. If there's something I want, I can get it myself. And way too many times, people are giving you crap that you don't even want. Or it's really stressful. I have to figure out what so-and-so needs. You know, all this essence just comes out, the densities around it, just say, oh yeah. You know? They love Christmas. You know, all these people going into debt to, you know, try to, I don't know, look good to whoever, their children units, you know, their spouse units and whatever. If I don't get a gift, oh, jeez, I'm going to be in a doghouse. Oh, stress. I solve that problem. Don't give me a gift. I'm going to get you one. Well, I like gifts. I don't care. You can't hold that over my head. If you give me a gift, that's on you. I don't want any gifts. So anyway,
Yes, Chief. It says that should I go on to questions because we have about 10 minutes.
okay, let's start with questions.
Okay.
Sorry, we thought this was going to just be one.
I think we can still do it if
Okay,
you want
let's
to.
go for the
Okay.
questions. Okay.
All right. The humanoids that look normal who sold their souls, like the homeless guy did underground, are they hijacked or is that they're just being fed on or something like that?
Oh, that's how the question is.
Well,
Oh, you're trying to.
I'm trying to save it.
Okay. The reality is what I just said, that there are individuals who are so programmed into believing that what is considered to be the good life in the system is the good life. So they're willing to sell out for this illusion of a good life. And I'm telling you, again, with more and more proof all the time, that when they sign that contract, and even my father unit, when he was on his way out, transitioning out, it said something like that to one of the siblings, because he knew of individuals who had supposedly sold their soul, things he never said when, when I was growing up, that once you get in there, you don't get out. And even with the Eminem rap and some of the others, I sold my soul to the devil. I'm never going to get it back. So even him even saying that must be some part of his consciousness just struggling just to get a message out. And even the fact that they allow it, and they were doing all kinds of things with showing satanic symbols and things during concerts and things of that sort. So this guy is just another programmed consciousness. These folks aren't enlightened to the point where they don't know, that they know that the density is going to pull the rug out from under them as soon as they sign the contract. Were they really talking to that guy? This is just a movie script. This is someone else's idea of how that works. So no, nobody. But it sounds like he was tricked into it or something, or how did that go? That question.
Sure. It says the humanoids that look normal who sold their souls like the homeless guy did underground, are they hijacked or are they just there to be fed on?
Yeah. Well, the concept of hijack, all hijack. That's why you're here. So, no, this is what I just said. So we can move on to the next.
Yes, Chief. There were a lot of questions about how to spot, an entity or a reptilian Palladian or whatever.
Yeah, and I think I even covered that.
Yes.
It's about what's, so how can you tell? Someone said, how can you tell? You tell by feeling, but don't look for a reptilian in particular or a Palladian. You're looking for something that vibrates below the line of demarcation. So if something shows up like something you've never seen before, but it vibrates a certain way, guess what? It's just as jacked up as a reptilian or a Palladian or a screed or all these other dense things that run around on the other side. So don't worry about whether it's a Palladian. It may shock some of you to realize you got them in your family. Someone actually asked whether just rich people are Palladians or reptilians. They're throughout the whole society. Because it's just a job for them. They don't live and believe what you believe. They're running around as a homeless person. They know they can pop out of there whenever they want to. They're in there getting and tuning up essence. I would do another muscle test, but I don't think we have time for it.
Okay.
Having to do with whether the ones that are taking over these performers' bodies are really enjoying it.
Well, I can just sit here and
So.
actually, you're covering a lot of the forum, it answered a lot of the questions. So
Okay. So, let's say the reptilians who've been being exposed recently, do they enjoy what they're doing? It's a job to them. And they don't like it. It's a job. Certain dense entities, certain dense entities don't want that job. Who thinks it's great? The brainwashed. I want to be a star. Yeah, you may think you want to be a star, and they'll use your body, but guess where you're going to be? You're going to be in a hole somewhere like in that movie, Get Out. And I have clients who have experienced that. So that's, and I don't need that just to know that it's real. I have clients who have experienced that, being moved out of their body and put some dark place and watching. They can't even figure out, how am I watching my avatar moving around with something else in it? So if you have these like little ideas about, oh look, here's also a star, oh I'm just a read, man. You don't know anything. And people get in that world, you know why they're so upset? Why they're so unhappy? Why they're so drugged out? Because whatever's still in there is suffering. And even the density in there, I gotta like, let me blow some, snort some cocaine so I can just deal with this sucky existence I'm having. Nice big car, house, wow, that's nice. We got better shit on the other side. Which is true. They're not in the mansions and crap, but they know that the populace is brainwashed, the program they're into it. Because they're programmed to believe in stuff. And want to be, Bill Gates or, I don't know, Elon Musk or Zuckerberg. You know how they keep asking Zuckerberg if he's a reptilian. So anyway, what's it, the next question?
Okay, did this movie impact people's consciousness like The Matrix did when it came out?
It depends on the person, but I think The Matrix Matrix had a bigger budget for one. So people are very much influenced by visuals and so on. And so in that sense, visually, I would say that it probably caught more people's attention than this particular movie. But this one is for those who consider themselves to be hardcore about what's going on in the world. So this is one of their go-to movies. And it's good to, if you have the blueprint that I'm giving you, then you can definitely learn something. There's a lot of real stuff going on in there, but they always have to get something, put something in there that's going to, and there's subliminal messages also that will get you to the point where you think that, we can't succeed unless we get everybody on board. This came out, 1988 or something, or 89, 88, and that's a good while ago. And there's not been any real, progress in the so-called movement until recently. And you know what? It had nothing to do with that movement. It's just showing you, if you want to see how density makes fun of you by showing you what they do to you and know you can't do anything about it. And they were afraid of the Matrix because there was some stuff they got through that they really, said, damn, how'd I get past this? Well, let's make these other 3 movies just to neutralize that one. So that's how you know which one was more influential. Matrix was more influential. So they spend a lot more time trying to neutralize the message in the Matrix. So anyway.
I noticed towards the end in the news broadcasting, the man giving the speech said something about exchanging energy for money. Is that what people are doing when they sell their souls? Would you answer?
Yeah, I answered, and absolutely. Yeah. So there's other reasons, but that is a main one. Again, this money, this is your God. And church, well, how church, the money is your, well, how come churches are always passing the basket around? Several times, by the way. There's some that are so bad, when I knew people were in it, we passed the basket around 4 times.
Okay. And then they bully you because everybody's looking, see if you're either stealing or
they look in the basket.
putting money in.
That's not enough. Pass it again.
And then they shake it at you. I'm just kidding, but it depends.
No, there was a movie that was like that. This is lighter. There's a movie Bill Cosby was in it years ago, where he's in that church and passing it around, and he looks at it and he just goes like, no money, just like, and then passes it. They pass it back to him. Really? again and then passes it back, you know. So
I got in trouble for giving a huge piggy bank full of pennies to the pastor because he had to count them out one by one. As a quiet revenge.
yeah, I mean, isn't it for the Lord? You should be, you know, willing to count those pennies. That little child, you know, she gave up her savings.
Yeah.
Kid, you're getting on my nerves. Don't you have any bills? You know?
Last, only 2 more questions left.
Yeah, go ahead.
So someone asked, like, for example, one of the questions was about teleporting because they had these wristwatches and there was different scenes in the underground facility, other facilities, other scenes as well,
Mhm.
where when they use their watch or whatever looks like a watch, they end up going into a doorway.
Yeah, they just blinked out. Yeah. I would say in the real, they were going into the real. They're shifting into another dimension in this realm. In this movie, I think they were going to headquarters or something. But if you see them disappearing, they're going into another dimension. And there's a number of, there's footage, recent footage of individuals walking out of, you know, all of a sudden appearing out of nowhere and then disappearing. And there's quite a few of those recently in this year also that have been, you know, been flying on, I guess, YouTube.
And yours, is it okay to talk about those things that have to do with falling into the accidentally?
Oh, you can, yeah.
Well, she was listening to this really interesting podcast that was about doorways that people accidentally stumble upon and go into the real, or that dimension in particular, and then it's very different. You wanna tell us something?
Well, there's this podcast, kind of interesting, but Density gets all freaked out when they listen to it. It's Welsh. What's it called? The guy's name is Mark Reese, and he does this podcast, and it's
Welsh ghost stories?
and yeah, something Welsh. Damn, sorry that I'm forgetting. But anyway, if you look at Mark Reese podcast, he talks about stories that have been recorded in Wales over centuries, several centuries. And there's a story of one person, a couple guys were out, and I forgot why they were in the forest, but they were, you know, working or doing something. And the one, he ends up like going off from the other one. I forgot what the reason were at this time. And he ends up, can't remember if he followed some little people, he followed them, and he ended up in the fairy circle. And he disappeared. And the other guy, you know, realized he wasn't, you know, he hadn't come back, and he's looking for him, and so he comes back to town. And, you know, of course, they figured that maybe after a point, you know, they couldn't find him. They figured that maybe he bumped him off and disposed of his body somewhere. So a whole year was going by, and the guy whose, you know, friend disappeared was being, you know, literally, I think I don't know if they put him in prison or something, but it wasn't going well for him. They just couldn't believe that he didn't kill this guy. And then, throwing up, I have to re-listen to it again, because it was several months ago that I listened to this. Go ahead.
I can't remember that part.
Yeah.
The guy was really pissed off at his so-called friend who was like, who even whenever he went, he ended up,
Well, they did find
they
him.
found
did
the
find him.
fairy circle, and
Yeah.
his friend dragged him out because he was like, hey, they're gonna blame me for your murder, get out of here. And he's like, no, I want to stay.
The thing is, the tricky thing about it is that the friend who had been in there for over a year thought that he had just been there for 5 minutes. And the party was just getting started, and his friend came and pulled him out, and he was all pissed off about it. Said, man, they're about to put my butt in prison because of you and this goofiness that you want to dance around with little fairies and crap. So these are like really like stories from the guy who does the Humanoid Reports. There's similar stories like that, but this guy, these are, you know, he's pretty, you know, savvy about it. He says, well, these are the stories that have been passed down in Wales for, you know, a certain number of years, and there are those who there that say this stuff is real. Don't sit here and try to tell us that we're fantasizing.
Ghost and Folklore podcast.
Ghost and Folklore podcast with Mark Reese. He's an interesting guy. I like the way he speaks. He's very comical. But you know, and it's funny because the way he reads his ghost stories, it's hard for you to be afraid. You don't feel, at least for me, to be creeped out by it, but I don't get creeped out by this stuff anyway. Yeah, the Zane
But
thing,
she can handle it.
Yeah, to me, it's like, oh, that's humorous the way he's telling that story, you know, about. But anyway, we're gonna.
Last question.
Last question.
When we go into our dream state, does our higher self protect us from dense entities?
No, generally, it depends on what state your higher consciousness is in. Most people's higher consciousness is in a coma. So whatever aspect of your consciousness, and don't ask me how to explain it to you, that is actually experiencing what's going on, doesn't have any protection. Because the dream realm in this realm is a creation of density. And that's how they 24/7 keep you tuned up and keep you walking around in the chicken coop. So then they give you dream books and you're trying to decipher dream books. This means this means that, this means so on and so forth. Every so often, something may come in and give you a heads up about something that is actually legitimate, but that's not often. But also individuals who see the future in their dreams, a lot of times densities behind that as well. So.
There was there's a NSTHA movie review called Inception, and that deals a lot with dreams. If you'd like to watch that again or watch it for the first time, it might give you a lot of insight into dreams and dream.
Yeah, but there's all these different levels. One of the things with the dream issue thing and clients who've shared dreams with me, who've been doing the work, they do the work enough, do containment enough, that they actually remember to contain in their dream. Or they realize that the dream is trying to get them to go in a certain direction that they don't want to go in, but they have more wherewithal because they've been doing the exercises that I told them to do. And they decide to not do it. Or they start to dissect the dream, and you know what happens? They get bounced out of the dream. So as soon as you start to take control, consciously taking control over the dream, they'll bounce you out of the dream because they're trying to tune you up so that you would just stay in the, in let's say the chicken coop, or literally, just trying to stunt your journey. And there are times that they'll bounce you from one dream into another dream. And I think you had one where they bounced you at least 4 times. Because they got, she got real stubborn about, being aware because she's been doing this work. And other clients have been doing this work, have had them bounce them out of one dream into another. And I remember when I literally learned and taught myself how to do it, I would just start to take control and boom, next thing I know, I'm out of the dream. But there are times they're trying to, tune you up with a nightmare. And the dream is just another, part of imagination. So you think about daydreaming, they're really close. So what I would do, if something's trying to threaten me in a dream, and haven't done that in ages, I would go back in my imagination. Sometimes I have to go back into the dream. It's like, how in the hell did he get back in here? And I would have my sword, light, and I would just start wreaking havoc. I just chop the crap out of you. And if you just imagine it, which means it's not like a dream that can bounce you out again, you're literally taking control over that scenario, and you can use whatever you need to do. And I don't give a crap about I'm using a sword and chopping something up, because they don't care if they chop you up. So I go in and I chop them up and right into the vortex. Guess what? They don't jump in my dreams. Every so often someone tries to convince you, like, don't you remember the good times? Like, what good times are you talking about? And then boom, bounce right out of the dream. So anyway, you said that there was.
Yes, it's time. I'm just showing them if they can see it. It's the 14th Global Women's Forum. Chief and I are there for the Inception movie review, NSTHA movie review.
Yeah.
So that's it.
So anyway, everyone, thank you again as always for those, and I know some of you are pretty busy, so you didn't get a chance to send in any questions and so on. We almost didn't have time to actually answer a lot of questions anyway. So
they were answered during your explanation.
Well, yeah, I was explaining, and some of them I really because it was hard not to.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you again, everyone, for joining the forum, and
Thank you.
we'll see you later.
Bye.
Thank you, Chief.
So,
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
You.
Okay.